Welcome back to 360 Success Podcast. I'm your coach, Dr. Ryan Knight. Today, again, in studio, my lovely wife, Amy.
Hello, good morning.
Today, we're diving back into marriage, and we're going to pick up on some of the list of the most common reasons why people end their marriage or decide to get divorced. The next one's a good topic.
Or sources of extreme
frustration. Correct. Let's just briefly go over parenting styles, different parenting styles. I feel like we were on the same page.
No, you got to think back a little bit further. The biggest thing is how you were raised and parented versus how I was raised and parented. And then we tried to put that in a ball of dough.
Those are important things to communicate about before you have children. That reminds me, one of the things that when we're mentoring people is that there will be different things that arise on expectations that you didn't know that you had until you hit that level in your relationship. So if it's how to parent, that's one level, and there are a set of expectations to go with that. When it comes to how you like your home kept or your food prepared or whatever it is, what your expectations are, it's super important that you communicate those things and try to identify ahead of time. If you can, go through the different aspects and levels of relationship.
Oh, and let me say this.
Yeah.
Not only the expectations, but if it's an expectation, how important it is to you. Because remember, we've had that conversation where I would kill myself making the bed and cleaning and then be spent. And then when it comes to intimacy or whatever at the end of the night,
right,
I'm like, but I did all this for you.
Yeah, and I'm like, I will stay over piles of laundry, if we could just have sex. But again, that is
I thought it was important to you.
Yeah. I mean, I do like a clean, orderly house.
No, but
it wasn't top of the list back when we were younger. I do enjoy it, actually, now. So different parenting styles, conflicts rise from that. And so I was raised my dad was very much a disciplinarian, physical discipline, and my mom was some, but not so much.
The fly swatter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she still claims that she didn't spank me with the wire end of a fly swatter, but yours was different. Yours was more grounding, right?
Oh, no, I'm a survivor of the wooden spoon, remember?
Oh, that's right, the wooden spoon thing. But as you got older, you were grounded more. Yeah.
I mean, not often because I was good.
Right. Well, my dad had just soon spank us and get it over with and then move on. And those messages delivered with pain tend to work. Okay, household responsibilities. Again, that's another one that, again, my mom was a stay-at-home mom most of my years growing up. I mean, she worked while I was in school a lot of times, but she was home by the time I was home, or my brother was. And so dividing up household responsibilities, again, I was very old school traditional. My mom pretty much kept the house and dad went to work and came home. And I guess it was kind of that way for you too, wasn't it? But your mom worked too?
Yeah, my mom worked. My dad worked. I think they pretty much had the same mentality. Even though my mom worked full time, it was still her responsibility to clean. Now, there was 5 siblings altogether. So growing up, every Saturday, everybody cleaned. And then even as I got older, my responsibility was clean my room and my bathroom. And so I think probably when we got married, it was trying to figure out, okay, what's important, what's your expectation, but we didn't verbalize that.
Right. We did a lot of that together, though.
We did do a lot of it together initially, but then once Josh was born, I think it got harder because as from a new mom, you're trying to juggle all the things and you're exhausted. And so I think I remember us having, some disagreements.
Yeah. You've been exhausted and frustrated and you're like, well, and also because he wouldn't take a bottle. You nursed him and he absolutely wouldn't take a bottle.
Yeah. He liked the boob.
Yeah. And if he's listening to this, I'm sure that will embarrass him. He's an adult now, so he probably doesn't. But again, that's a communication thing that I think to me, I'm surprised that it's even on the list for the reasons people break up or divorce. I mean, I don't understand how that could be an unreconcilable difference.
Well, let me say it like this, though. If you think about it in the heat of the moment, remember, I would get frustrated. We talked about this on the last episode where it was the ruler, right? And the counselor was like, you have to ask him for help. But I just couldn't compute. He is a grown man. Why should I have to ask him for help?
You want to say grown ass man. I know
did.
that's what you're trying to say. Yeah.
And so she's like, well, but he's just wired differently. So you have to go over and click his mouse, get him out of, if he's watching
Wake me up.
TV or on his phone
On
or
screensaver.
reading. He has no clue you're stomping around. So that's kind of what, sorry, Mom, that's what I saw my parents do. My dad would be watching sports or whatever on the TV, laying down after working all day. And then my mom would be running around doing all the cleaning, and she would get so frustrated. And so I just did the same thing because that's all I knew. But then we realized I did have to ask. In fact, I was just talking to somebody else about this the other day because she was like, I get so frustrated because I'll even make a list and leave it on the counter, and I'm still the only one that does everything in the house. I'm like, yeah, but you have to verbally say it. You have to go, and every time.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm coming up the
Assign
driveway.
the task. Yeah.
Can you help me with groceries?
Yes.
But I'm like, did you not just hear me come in with
5,000 with bags? And
so women,
no, I was watching this video and
Yep.
I was totally zoned in and
didn't hear a thing.
Didn't
hear the thunderstorm or the dogs barking or the kids crying. No.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, can you help me?
It's a good way to get my attention. Okay, so the next thing, this one I believe is huge. You want to read that next one?
The lack of quality time.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And so as your relationship grows and matures, you realize how important this is because you can be distracted so much early in the relationship with work and trying to carve out a profession or a career. And then with parenting, yes, with kids, that you lose the quality time with your spouse. And
this we have seen
so many times.
So much. We have a lot of friends in this situation, and we've been so bold as to even say something to them because, again, it's looking from the outside versus being on the inside. You don't see things the same, but it has to be so intentional. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I have a very hard time with is saying no and knowing when to stop because, we all have this, like our cell phones have the battery at the top, right? Well, I'm bad about letting my battery go all the way down. And by the time dinner's done, I'm done. I'm ready to go home, I'm ready to go to bed. I don't want to touch nobody, do nothing. No throwing the leg, Stephanie, none of that. Because I have spent my whole battery. And that's not fair to him.
And you're right that it's not fair if either one of us do that. But the lack of quality time, like you can be together, but not quality time. So, a lot of times we'll drink coffee at the morning and scroll social and stuff like that. That is not really quality time, although we'll share stuff back and forth and talk about things and, hey, look at this. That's more quality that way. But if you're totally disengaged and you have your backs turned to each other and you're just scrolling social or on your iPad different rooms or whatever, that creates disconnection. And really what you have to do is date your spouse. You still have to do that. We're good about date nights, and we've tried to do that for a long time to where we're intentional about going out with each other, going out with another couple, and not just for the social aspect, but as human beings, we need connection. And the first person you need to be connected to is your spouse. And so super important that you're intentional about quality time. And again, intentionality in what we call the 4 foundations is intentional in your faith, intentional in family and marriage, your health, and your finances. All right, let's
skip to the last one.
Okay.
Because I feel like that all kind of goes together.
Yeah. Unresolved conflicts and resentment.
You want to sing that song? And Randy Travis? Digging up bones.
Yeah.
So my memory's terrible, except in this department.
Except for what I did wrong in 1993 on March 1st, whatever.
Is that when I threw the ties at you?
I don't know, because I have Alzheimer's when it comes to remembering your wrongs. It's because you had so few, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is exactly.
You look cute today, by the way.
Oh, hey, thanks. My cute little Adidas.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to sponsor me, I could have some more if you want.
I mean, I do sponsor you.
No, not you. Adidas.
Oh, okay. Anyway, unresolved conflicts, if avoiding or mishandling them leads to resentment over time. And a lot of times I will tell people, Time creates distance and distance creates perspective. That's good to a point with certain things. I actually love that saying.
Say it again.
It says time creates distance and distance creates perspective. Sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, you've got to give it some distance and get some perspective. But here's the deal. You have to go back into the conflict. You cannot avoid it, because when you avoid it, it just grows. And when it grows, it becomes a big monster and it rears its head. So the next time similar conflict or something happens,
it's way out of proportion.
It blows way out of proportion. And so you have to address those things. And like we said on the last episode, some of the best information we got great information in counseling. We've invested in coaches for our business. We've invested in coaches for our marriage and relationship and communications and for our kids. But some of the best information we got was, look at the conflict that you, or whatever you want to resolve and work on. You guys are sitting on one side of the table and you have to put that on the other side of the table and focus on that and the issue, because where things devolve in this conflict resolution a lot of times is it turns into an attack to the other person. And if you can avoid that, that will save you so much heartache and so much injury, because you literally wound the other person with your tongue.
Well, and because like when we were doing marriage mentoring, we even had the little construction cones. We had all these like visual tools that we had to use with our couples, because so many of us come from, a dysfunctional home where we weren't taught how to communicate. And then that just evolves. And then we get to a disagreement or conflict and we just revert back to what we've always used, and it doesn't work. And so we had to learn, and then we've had to teach it to others. We've tried to instill that in our kids because,
our company has a conflict resolution based on Matthew 18.
We have to coach our team as well, because again, none of us were raised in a family, and I'm not trying to throw our families under the bus by any means, but we weren't taught how to communicate well, especially in the heat of the moment.
I don't know anybody that's been taught effective communication strategies or conflict resolution strategies. They may have been taught, but even like the majority of our employees don't have really good skills when it comes to that. And I think that's probably like an epidemic.
For sure, especially now with social media. People are fine putting it on social media.
They'll put you on blast when they should get punched in the mouth.
And that is a terrible way to address issues. But I feel like, and I think it's funny too, because I think the older we get too, you're like, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago, it would have been like,
would have blown everything up. And now we're like, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. What did you just say? Because why was I mad?
No, it's not even worth the effort.
Can't even remember. Yeah. So anybody listening who's newly married, just know that at some point you do kind of like, it's not even worth the fight. I am certain you did not mean that.
That's right. And so successful marriage and relationships requires ongoing effort and communication, mutual respect to navigate some of these challenges.
You should Love and Respect.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great book to read in regards
Emerson
to all
Eggerichs, Love and Respect, fantastic book. He talks about the crazy cycle.
Yes.
And we're going to end this up in just a minute, but we have to mention that. The crazy cycle is because, men spell love RESPECT, respect, and women spell it LOVE. We have different views on what that is. And so if I feel disrespected, then I act unloving. And then
if I don't feel love, I'm disrespectful.
That's right.
Or undermining or.
Yeah. And even in the Bible, what is it, Ephesians 5, where it talks about husbands love your wives. And then it says, wives, respect your husband. I mean, even God knew that is the way we're wired. Of course, he wired us that way. But that crazy cycle it gets wound up and you jump on it all the time in your relationships, in your marriage relationships specifically. And so again, in counseling, we were sitting there and we both were very competitive. So we want to be right. And do you remember what we asked the counselor?
I don't remember. I just remember her saying,
I said, well, how do we stop it?
The most mature one is the one who starts on the right.
Who stops the cycle, jumps off the crazy cycle.
So guess who was always the most
Me.
Very competitive.
No, but we would recognize it once we identify this crazy merry-go-round and like, you know what? I'm going to be intentional and stop. Even though I may feel disrespected, I'm going to stop acting unloving. I'm going to act loving toward her, even if she feels disrespectful right now. And in an episode, maybe the next one or the next one, we're gonna talk about the dark years. You won't want to miss that one because you want to talk about crazy cycle. It was crazy. So watch for that episode coming out. It'll be under the marriage stuff with Amy and I, but we were going to talk about that today, and we decided to finish out this list. Next up on the list will be the next episode. We talk about the in-laws, the outlaws, extended family conflicts. How do you handle those things? So stay tuned.